Well, hello everyone. The Steelers are 2-0. That's what matters. There's a lot of things to be concerned about. My biggest fear going into this game was the altitude, and I think that was really starting to show up against a really bad Denver offense late in this game, and I'm glad it didn't go much further. We're going to dig into this stuff. We're going to start with the stats as usual. The game just ended. I mean, honestly, 2 minutes ago. And this is my only window to record this, so these are very, very early impressions. I'll do a lot more homework. I would expect tomorrow's podcast to be much more extensive. So if I miss stuff, hang with me for a day. We'll be cool. Halftime, the Steelers are leading 10-0. Fields at this point is 10 for 12 for 101 yards. A touchdown, no picks. 4 runs for 26. Going pretty well. Nix, on the other hand, is 7 for 11 for 39 yards. I mean, talk about throwing sideways. That's exactly what he did again, especially early in the game. 1 rush attempt for 13. He attempted 1 first-half pass of over 10 yards. And Sutton had no targets in the first half. Steelers had 13 first downs to 3. They were 4 of 6 on third downs compared to 1 of 5. They ran 32 plays to 20. They averaged 5.9 yards per play compared to 3.1. They ran for 95 yards in the first half compared to 38. And how about this? 189 yards in the first half. On pace for well over 300 to 62 for Denver. 18:24 time of possession compared to 11:36. And at this point, the Steelers were getting hit harder with penalties. 6 for 50 compared to 3 for 37. Both teams had 2 sacks. Looked really good going into the half. Now, it ended good, but less good. And the stats bear it out. I mean, look how different these stats are. Fields ends up 13 for 20 for 117. He completed 3 passes in the second half for a total of what? 16 yards. Still 1 touchdown. No interceptions. We like that. Huge. 8 for 29 on the ground. Nix was 20 for 35 for 246 to finish the game. 4 for 25 rushing. Once again, the Broncos' leading rusher. This time with 25 yards. I think last week was like 35. Yikes. They targeted 10 different receivers, Denver. Dolchich had the most with 8. Had some drops too. Watt finished the game with a sack and 2 tackles for loss. They gave him a lot of attention, as we expected. But these final stats, I mean, it's kind of a tale of 2 halves. First downs. I'll tell you the Steelers first. 16 to 13. Third downs. 4 of 13 compared to 2 of 12 for Denver. Collectively, they're 6 of 25 on third downs. Wow. Time of possession was still in the Steelers' favor, 32-19 to 27-41. But yards per play changed drastically. Steelers 4-3, Denver 5-3. Total plays changed drastically and evened up, 58 to 56. Total yards favored Denver. Steelers only end up with 251 despite doing all that work in the first half. 295 for Denver. Rushing yards, 141 to 64. Maybe I should just cut to the chase and just started with this, but a huge key to this game, as it is for every Steeler game, were the turnovers. 0 compared to Denver with 2. Plus, there was a 4th down conversion they didn't convert. But more importantly, the red zone interception by Trice. I mean, we may have a very different story, and the Steelers might be 1-1 if Nix doesn't throw that football. Penalties, 10 for 78 for Pittsburgh, 9 for 124 for Denver. Which brings me on a quick rant. Really tough to watch. Now, I'm not even saying they were bad calls, but it was a lot. I mean, there was a series, you remember it, late in the game, where 2 out of 3 plays had offsetting penalties on both teams. There was 4 flags thrown on 3 plays. And then there was a flag like the next play after. I mean, and I always do ref research, and I should do a better job of telling you guys about ref research whenever I do it. But these refs were known for flags, and boy, did we see it. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From NFL to college, Bet Online is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head over to online casino and get on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and use promo code BELIEVE, capital BLEAV, and get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. Boy, did the offense dry up in the second half. And I don't care how bad their offense is, you just can't ask any defense in this altitude, in particular, in the second game of the year. I can't stress this enough. Boy, were they looking for oxygen on that second to last drive. The drive that ended up with a field goal, which I'm not sure how to kick the field goal there. They were huffing and puffing bad. And I'm excited to look at the snap counts because early in the game, I didn't think the Steelers used a heavy rotation. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I am recording this. Tomlin hasn't even had his press conference yet. Yeah, I mean, so I will learn very much more in the next 24 hours. Porter did a tremendous job against Sutton. Yes, but only Ladarius Sneed had more penalties than Porter last year, and he's still grabby. I mean, that's not. Forget about these things. Nix was awful once again passing downfield, but he made a couple plays with his legs. I thought Denver would have more play action. Remember how little play action Atlanta used? Is that something that we're just not going to see a lot of against Steelers because it takes a pulse longer? Something I had kind of my eyes open to, but I'll look at the numbers tomorrow. Their left tackle, who they're paying a lot, that people think is good, Bowles, was terrible in this game. A couple Broncos notes starting there. Zach Allen, their defensive lineman, was really wreaking havoc early in the game. The Steelers' interior had problems with him. I think it was mostly Anderson. We'll double check here, but I don't think it was Frazier. They also lost two key contributors on defense. Franklin Myers is a starting defensive tackle, and Browning's a good edge rusher that I told you guys about. So they lost those guys during the game. Steelers punting. I mean, I just have random notes here. Started slow. First couple, I was like, oh man, here we go. But improved. Improved a lot. And Denver helped with some penalties on their punt return team. Too many punts, of course, in this game. But that's kind of what you expected. But he had a great one to finish the game. And I really thought Waitman improved as the game went on. So, had a lot of practice. Boz. Wasn't asked to do a ton. Wasn't last week. But he hits a key 53-yarder with a little over 4 minutes on the clock. Huge. I mean, the game could have been much different if he doesn't nail that one. I just have some random plays here. There was a 3rd and 7. Finally, Sutton got involved, and there was a hold on Porter on that play. I meant to say that before when we were talking about Porter, but that was Sutton's first catch. And again, there was that hold on Porter. The reverse flea flicker, home run ball to Reynolds, whatever you want to call it, that 49-yard gain. Before that, the first 25 plays that Denver ran gained 75 yards. Then their next 2 plays gained 75 yards. Of course, the Trice interception, it's 1st and goal from the 7 at that point. I'm starting to get nervous. Cam has a great pressure and a terrible decision by Nix. INT for Trice. In for Jackson, by the way. Jackson got banged up. Side note, Jackson got banged up twice in this game. They obviously went after his replacement right away. Trice comes up huge with kind of the play of the game. I don't know of any other Steeler injury news off the top of my head, except for Jackson was in and out a little bit. We saw Pickens, I thought, really held his own versus Surtain. Drew some defensive pass interference that aren't going to show up on the scoreboard. They moved him around. got him in the slot a little bit more. Pickens looks really, really good to me. And this was a hard challenge. Jefferson also, another, speaking of defensive pass interferences, he drew one on Moss. So their deep shots didn't always show up in the box score, but they paid off. I saw very little Steelers blitz, which I'm fine with. They paid for one, a big one. But they blitzed the lowest rate in the league in week 1. I don't think that this is going to be a blitz-heavy team because they're good pass rushing without it. The first time Denver got in Steelers territory, past the 50-yard line, there was like 4.5 minutes left in the first half. I mean, this is a bad offense. Speaking of bad, we got to talk about Broderick Jones. I mean, he has a false start, and then they hit on a 3rd and 11, a strike to Pickens on an out route for Surtain. Then a nice run by Najee that Jones had a great block on. Then Jones gets another hold on a Najee run. And then the unreal play, again, that won't show up in the box score, by Pickens, again, versus Surtain on that rollout, called back by another Jones hold. And then Faetano, who started the game, comes back in and never leaves. I don't know what to do about that. I mean, it was a terrible sequence. I still have a lot of hopes for Jones. I mean, we're going to be hearing all week, this guy's a bust, after Greg Rousseau beat him in the preseason. I didn't know that they were planning on a rotation, but you got to worry. I mean, that was another horrific showing. And that drive was the one that started inside your 1-yard line. That was a really good drive that was kind of sabotaged by Jones. I don't know how you get around that. Mentioned Watt had 2 tackles for loss. One of them was on a 2nd and 5 with about 8 minutes in the game. He gets a tackle for loss. And then on 3rd and 7, he just destroys McGlinchey. Not only does he produce every week, but when it matters most, late in games, clutch, all that stuff, Watt exudes. Another one, we had a 3rd and 3 late in the game here. A deep ball to Austin with about 6 minutes left in the game. They get the unnecessary roughness, helmet to helmet. Adam Archuleta, former D-back, was the one doing the game. And he thought it was a questionable call. And, he does what's a defensive back supposed to do? That's not really the question to ask. I think it's a questionable call too. But if it's helmet to helmet against a defenseless receiver, nobody cares about what the defensive back is supposed to do. You know what I mean? So I would say the same thing if it happened to Elliott or Minka or whatever, Fields botched another snap. Is it on him? I don't know, but it's 3rd and 5 late in the game. He doesn't know the snap's coming against a rookie center who we all love, but hits him in the face mask. And this has been a trend, to say the least. Warren falls on it, saves the day. But, man. In the end, I think you have to go back to Wilson. I want to see it. I think he's more professional. He doesn't have these... Well, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on Wilson, but Fields really dried up as the game went along. And I liked how he played in the first half a lot. But Wilson was brought here to be the starter. I would make that move with a Fields package. And with all respect to Jefferson and Austin and even Freiermuth, who's a good player, not a great player. And I'm not even talking about Ayuk. They're short a weapon. If you had this game with Deontay, someone that's a good receiver, going against Moss all day, I think it goes a lot different. Lastly, Steelers are 2-0. I thought the Bengals and Browns were in for big trouble. Bengals played the Chiefs really strong and probably should have won that game. Hendrickson was a dominant player, but the Bengals are now 0-2, as are the Ravens. I didn't see that coming. Their O-line is a problem. And the numbers tell you when you're 0-2, you are long shots to make the playoffs. History just shows this. 0-2 in the toughest division, in the toughest conference, that's going to be rough. I did not see a Browns win coming, but I give them credit. I think there's some issues in Jacksonville as well, but it's just, it could have been 2-0 versus 3-0-2 teams. But the Browns, to me, are the weakest team in the division with still major quarterback problems, and they got a win on the road, which is huge for them. But all in all, this is a good day, folks. This is definitely a good day. A lot more to decipher. I'll find all kinds of stats and nuggets as I always do, and tomorrow's will be jam-packed with them. So take care. Over now.